Can you expound on that, Kente? Can you go into detail, emphasize a little bit?
I mean, it's so many things that make us different, and that's okay. Like, the even down to genetics, how we're built. We have different gaits. We have different average shapes of different things, whether it be the nose, whether it be ears, whether it be what foods are better for our specific systems, whether it be how the hair grows and what illnesses or things we're predisposed to. Like all of the, like, okay, so yeah, we all got two legs. I don't have a tail. I've seen the tail in real life, so there is some truth to that. I'm just saying, if anybody is white in here, that's no offense. I'm just saying I've seen it before. Um, on white people. I went to school with a white kid that had a tail, and his family never cut it off of him. But all of that is to say, like, I think that um people have an issue with there being so many differences, and I don't know why there has to be an issue with it. Like, if the differences didn't exist, then we would all be one. We're
Mhm.
clearly not, and that's okay. So we have similarities, but we are not the same.
I disagree. I think white people are the same as black people.
Okay.
Humans are just humans. So you have Homo erectus, which is a species. We are the same species as these people because we can procreate with them. If you have two different subspecies, like a lion and a tiger, they can procreate, but they'll make a liger, and a liger cannot. A liger ends up being dormant. So when you have two different subspecies that procreate together, science shows that even if they can create a baby, the baby itself will be dormant. We're not seeing this happening with mulattoes. We're seeing actually, look at it organic. So at the end of the day, if we keep mixing, if we keep mixing, what we're doing is not weeding out one or the other. So what you have is recessive genes and dominant genes, and that's what you have. And then you have haplogroups, which are different too, because even in haplogroups, that makes black people different from other black people. And then when we're talking about dietary systems, that I think that goes, and this is kind of debatable, but there's science behind this as well. That goes to your blood type. So what is good for your dietary system is down basically on your blood type. And since majority of black people are, I think, O positive, a lot of white people are B, and well, a lot of Jews, the Jewish white people, like these guys were saying the other day, the Semitic people, the Ashkenazi Jews are blood type B, and then you have certain variants of people who more of a blood type, but there's not one variant of blood type that dominated by one race of people. Race is a created thing. It was created by the Germans. Any black people that's actually following that shit, you actually following white supremacy. And there was a German scientist that came up with race. He came up with the five race theory. It got changed to the three race theory later on, which is Mongoloid, Afroid, and Caucasoid. And he did it to say that the Afroid people were a weaker species, not just genetically, but inferior mentally. When we're the ones that had a dominant allele, and they have the mostly most of their people have recessive alleles. So nah, we the same. It's just recessive and dominant genes.
Ooh,
Uh,
okay.
So
that's
I
Strong.
would
interesting.
say that that
Go ahead.
actually kind of is in line with what I believe, because the question was posed just between white and black. I don't think all black people are the same either. So exactly when he said, like the subgroups, can make babies or whatever, um, and they still have their differences. I Because I don't think that all black people are the same. I think it's the same between black people as it is between white people or with any group. I don't think we all have the exact same ancestors. We might come from different groups. We might be able to procreate, but actually, like, we see in real time, at least a certain group dying off pretty quickly. We don't know how that stuff works in the human species because we obviously are still able to procreate and have babies, but we see again in real time that is slowing down. So we can't compare exactly between species unless anyone knows of a period in time where humans have been um, procreating, but the immediate next generation was not was immediately sterilized from birth as a group of people. I don't think we've seen that in human history.
Okay, I got another question. Okay, so what role should genetic ancestry play in personal identity? And kind of like a second half of that question would be, um, should genetic testing be encouraged? So yeah, the first one is how should we connect to what's the identity behind our genetics, and should we encourage to get tested? Sorry, I'm mumbling. Did I get your
If you
question?
think that everybody's the same, what's the need to do that?
Anybody else?
So, what role should genetic ancestry
Everybody's
play in personal identity?
fine.
I don't think ancestry
Mute
plays a
yourself.
role in personal identity. I think people go seek out their ancestry and force it into their personal identity. This is why you have
Mm.
Hebrews, Moors, all of these other things, and it's not necessarily something that you have to do or need to do. What's necessary is you knowing, your family lineage, your alleles. You knowing like, okay, if I had a sickle cell trait, that I can pass the sickle cell trait on, and I can't if I'm dating a woman and she has a sickle cell trait, these are important things to know. That
Okay.
your heritage and your lineage, it's not really important. Those are things that you want to learn on your own for self knowledge, for self awareness. But it's not something that you need to survive in today's time. There's plenty of people in this planet right now that don't know crap about their lineage, but they're surviving just well.
If I can retort to that or sit on or speak on the other side of that, I had plenty of people who, when I used to use 23andMe, who were constantly seeking out relatives, missing fathers, missing aunts, relative, anybody who has their DNA who will have a strong enough match so that they can start healing what they're missing, looking for traits, looking for anything, including the medical side, which is like, hey, do I have this disease or that? But just connecting families, which is, I've seen a constant search, a constant push, especially since the African Heritage show where that specific actors and actresses or known personalities were even paying top dollar to not only find who they were genetically, but where their bloodline came from and the history of that past to find out something they didn't know about themselves. That goes way back. And to me,
They're not
that
finding
tree
stuff
of
that they
life,
don't know about
uh,
themselves. They're finding stuff they don't know about their history. And all of those things that you're naming are personal choices. Now, if you would have said anything like that person needed a blood transfusion or a bone marrow transfusion or any kind of medical
or
reasons,
find
and
out
you're
if they
looking for
have
close
diabetes or
relatives,
etc. Right.
and you're
And I mentioned
yeah,
the
if you're
medical
looking
side
for
as well.
okay, so just let me finish. If you're looking for close relatives because you need them for surgery, that's understandable. But you actually don't need a close relative. You just need somebody who has similar blood type. It does depend on what you're looking for. So you can get a match, a
Exactly
genetic match from
what you're
anywhere
looking
on this
for.
planet.
And
So they
one of
they,
those,
they have medical offices that specialize in finding people genetic matches when they need transplants. And it doesn't always come from a relative. It's just easier for them to find if they have a close relative. Now, people
mhm,
trying to find their close relative for their own personal reason, that's different. The brother asks if it's a necessity. Necessity means something that you actually need. So, like, you don't need to find your close relatives. There's plenty of people on this planet surviving without their close relatives. Most of these people find their close relatives, and most of them are crackheads anyway. Or if they wasn't looking for you, they didn't want you anyway. You can have
So
some of
I'll
my relatives
pose.
right now. Matter of fact, I'm gonna
So
give you. I
I'll
got like
pose
three
this
cousins and an
question.
auntie that I'll let you have.
So I'll go ahead and pose this
I'll
question:
let you
Do we
say.
have a primitive origin? Mm.
yes, Neanderthal.
Mm.
In what way? Go ahead, expound on that. Let us
Yeah.
hear that.
So at least from what I found in my own DNA recently, because I got this, I have a subscription to it, even though 23andMe got hacked. That 1% of my DNA is Neanderthal, and it's on the same bloodline as the 20% West English. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm still learning more about what that means as far as like what are the benefits of that particular trait of DNA in comparison to others. Because I know I still hate the fucking cold, but yeah, no land there.
Anybody else think we have primitive origins? Did we originate from the monkey or the Neanderthal?
Mm.
Oh, that's a
I
tough
think you should
one, I
push that
see.
question to see when is the last time, if any of them has checked, and why
Mm.
for those that did.
Well, before we get to that,
No,
Right.
that's crazy that you guys are conspiracy theorists and you trust 21 and Me database. That's wild to
23.
me. Oh, yeah.
But
23 and Me, yeah.
apparently,
23 and Me, Ancestry.com, all of these places. You trust them with your DNA and specific facts about your lineage because they asked you 1,000 questions. You trust them,
They can ask me any
but you don't
question
trust
they
the
like.
government?
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so you got to leave that for the flat earthers.
Okay.
But
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I
My
will
bad. Lesson
say,
learned.
oh, I
I wasn't
do
looking at
have
my phone. I thought you were Space
I
Ghost. You guys
forgot.
sounded like,
I
I
do
swear to
have
God.
one
My
for
bad.
you. Here's a real need. Ghana, Ghanaian citizenship. You can trace your lineage back enough. You can go get yourself some citizenship from Ghana and at least two other countries based on your
yes,
DNA
it's true.
because of the right of abode. If you can prove that you were prior, if you have, I think it's like 20% or 25% of your DNA came from Ghana, they will give you citizenship based on that and will allow you to stay in Ghana
Yoni.
visaless.
Yoni.
And what does that to
Yes,
do?
that's true.
Besides just that, etc., that allows you to do one thing that the nation of the Philippines, that's what listed in The Economist as the world's temp agency, the ability to resend, or in other words, send money back to a bank that you can, to send money back to a foreign bank.
Well, if you learn how to make a taco correctly, you can get citizenship in Mexico. What does that have to do with anything? So you can get citizenship in Ghana. They have bricks that they're opening up their borders to a lot of people
That was
that have
funny.
African American descent without them proving anything. There's plenty of people on
It's
this
funny as
planet that got
shit,
dual
though.
citizenship all over the
Yeah,
place. That's not
you
a,
can
it's
take,
not
you
that's
could,
that's
for
not some
Mexico,
woohoo
it's still
moment.
like 200 grand. And for certain nations, yeah, there are multiple paths to citizenship. But for one that's specifically DNA, which in the right of abode, it literally says if another nation has taken your citizenship from us, we will give it back to you. And that verbiage
Well,
is
I
coined
definitely want to. I
specifically.
definitely want to say I was wrong. I thought you was.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking at my phone. I thought that was Space Ghost talking. So my bad.
Oh, no.
But I say you're a conspiracy
So
theorist.
Troller, do you think there's alternative methods or approaches that we could provide for similar effects of genetics ancestry? Or is there any alternative route we could take if we can't trust 23andMe and my ancestry? What other routes can we take to take valid tests?
I'm
Doctor.
saying okay with science changes in time. We all know that, right? So they come up with something new and they say, okay, everybody should take this. They're asking questions. They're asking a lot of questions when you take these things. I went through one of them myself, ancestry, right? And so did my family. A lot of my family members as well. My mom and her sister are twins. They got different results for some strange reason. It don't even make sense. You know what I mean? And they
Oh,
they
wow.
definitely got a blood test to see that their father is the same person back in the day. So they know that they had the same father. So it's not because you can have twins that have two different fathers, which is an actual thing that happens. It's rare, but it does. But at the end of the day, they have the same father. They look alike. They look exactly alike, and and they had different results because they went through two different databases. And this is the problem with it. They're storing a database, and their database is based on prejudice. It's based on things that they already felt in the first place. So, like, if they find certain alleles within you, they already associate that with sub-Saharan African. They're already associating that with certain, it's because of the features and all of that. So when they
Hey,
created the
LD.
database and
Remember,
they touch your blood, they're looking for that allele, and then they're automatically going to say sub-Saharan African. It has no basis off of it. So like at the end of the day, you're just going off of a database, their
Yeah.
database. And that's the
Now,
crazy thing
now,
about it is
Solar,
we sit
does
on a
this
panel
apply
with
to?
people that say we don't trust these people all the time, but then when it comes to ancestry.com, okay, I trust them with my blood.
Okay, I get that, but does this apply to white people that take the test too, that might get origins of their race and their past, or the Asians that take it?
I don't think
Or
I don't
does
think
it?
it's racist. I just think it's rudimentary science. It's
Hard
like
to
new
say.
science.
Yeah.
So I think eventually it'll get better and better. I think and it'll probably
Thank
be
you.
bone test or something else that's actually relevant. That they can
Right.
actually check and see these, okay, certain genetic traits or variants that come from certain haplogroups and where they arrive. Because like I told you, Napa, I don't believe in the out of Africa theory the way that y'all do. I do
Oh,
think that
best
Africa
believe
had
it's
the
coming up.
original. I believe that African had the original Homo erectus, but that doesn't mean that Homo erectus didn't appear at different time frames on this
Hmm.
planet. So say it's life started in Africa, cool, but that don't mean that the same way that life started in Africa, life could have started here in America thousands of years later, 10,000 years later, like 10,000 years ago. Put it like that. So
Right.
I don't fight against Africans being the first at all. That's science. You can't beat that until you find some bones that's going to debunk it. But until then, what you can't do is say that Homo sapien erectus came from only one place, because what they start finding now is other genetic variants that like Albert Perry, and this is just the first time. So there's still time left for us to do this. Science is still new. We only know like 1% of about DNA. We only know 1% about space. The shit that we know is nothing yet so far. So like we still have a long way to go when it comes to science, bro. And I probably won't be here.
And you
You
know,
probably
even
won't
less
be
about
here.
the ocean.
But what I'm saying is this is just the beginning. You can't really trust new shit.
Here's the reason why I say that's wrong is because it was back during the 2000s when we had finally mapped most of the genome, and they was incorrect and said that we had gotten a good portion of it. Um, but even then, in the most recent one, we've now been able to trace our lineage as far as our DNA, and our tree of life, so to speak, can include now bananas, mushrooms, amongst other things, which hold up like 50% of our DNA. So I think some of that is incorrect. I think I have to agree with you that we're learning, but the basis of that is still incorrect. There is a lot we've learned um, since then, and even though you may call it a new science, the documentation and the history of those DNA databases,
Mm.
the research that's based on that, including the stuff that includes Egyptian mummies that they've extracted, amongst others, to make this a more interesting place as we move forward. And the accuracy just keeps getting better and better each and every year.
So I think you got a smaller time scale than me, though. Like so, I'm going off of okay. First, the Earth time scale is 4 billion years. Humans been
Mhm.
around here. Let's just say max 400,000 years. 400,000
Okay.
years to 4 billion years is not nothing. On top of that, modern science have only been around for a couple hundred years. So we got to think about like in the small time frame that we've been doing things is relatively not anything. And the life expectancy of and you can look this up. The life expectancy for a mammal is 2 million years. 400,000 years, we still have 2 million years of life expectancy. So we're really
Hmm.
just like beginning as a species. We're new as a species on this planet. Period. Overall. Now outside of that, we have just started developing these studies when it comes to genetics. So what I'm saying is this is all still new, because just because we started here today doesn't mean that's where we're going to be 50 years from now when it comes to genetics. You see what I'm saying? And there was a time period where just not since in our lifespan that they were saying completely different things about our origins. There was a time span that China was out there saying that the Chinese had different origins. They just recently came out and their scientists just recently came out and said, hey, you know what? We could not find any other variant other than that mitochondrial DNA that connects us to Africa. So we had to have come from that lineage. This was just recently. This I'm talking about the last a couple of months.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you
So
more
so
on that
so
specific
if
spot.
that's the
But
case, then we talking
yeah,
about nations coming out with new information, or just not even new information, old information that they finally agreeing with from months ago that we knew about years ago.
yeah,
So this is all
just like
new.
just like validating Einstein's theory of relativity. But look how far we've come from each and every milestone we hit. You can't negate it.
Mm.
All right. Well, there is a question on the floor. Give me just a second, and I am pulling it up right now. So, based on the out of Africa theory, the out of Africa theory contribution to what we're talking about, is there a more comprehensive understanding of human evolution that pertains to migration patterns?
I'm going to yield that question to God Energy, and he hasn't shown up yet because he has done direct research on where that different haplogroups and their migration patterns. And he has a theory, not just a theory, but his research has led him to where that those migration patterns match where those DNA haplogroups